Right, in breaking news, the White House and Congress have reached a deal on a new funding package that will replenish the Paycheck Protection Program and will provide new benefits to small business. This is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell earlier today.
So, Mr. President, earlier today, leaders in both chambers and the administration reached a bipartisan agreement to supplement the historic CARES Act. At the core of our agreement is $320 billion more for the Paycheck Protection Program, which is already saving millions of small business jobs and helping Americans get paychecks instead of pink slips.
The measure will add roughly $320 billion to the Paycheck Protection Program, boost a small business emergency grant and loan program by $60 billion, and direct $75 billion to hospitals and $25 billion to new coronavirus testing programs at the state level. Now, beyond the spending, there is something very unique about how the Trump administration is dealing with this emergency. It's called deregulation and decentralization. Joining me now to talk about it is Debbie Lesko. She represents Arizona's 8th Congressional District and is a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Debbie, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Hope you're doing well.
We're doing well. How are things in Arizona?
Arizona is fortunately not as bad off as New York. I guess no state is as bad off as New York. I mean, we have had deaths and, of course, cases, but it's totally different there. I mean, there's no lines that I've seen for testing. There's no lines for food boxes. So I want your listeners to know that what they see on national TV is a lot of that is happening in New York and not in different states. And that's, I guess, really goes into what you're talking about. And that is that President Trump is allowing every state to decide on their own, which is what it should be, when they can reopen their economy, because every state is different. And within every state, different cities, different counties are at different places. And in fact, there's hospitals in Arizona that, they don't have business. They're losing money because they don't have business. There's not enough people in the emergency rooms. And so I think everybody's eager to get the economy back up and running. And I have to say that President Trump is doing a good job.
He is doing a good job. He's doing it in a much different way. I've been through a number of pretty significant natural disasters in my home state of Louisiana, going all the way back to Katrina. Of course, before that, 9/11, and we saw how even Republican administrations responded to that. 9/11 brought about a massive expansion of government. Two huge agencies were created with extraordinary powers. Department of Homeland Security, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Not saying that there weren't problems, but historically the way that government responds is to grab power and expand. But what we're seeing in this administration is pushing the responsibility, along with resources, back to the states and allowing them, as you just said, to craft a response that fits their community.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. Of course, he can't win. President Trump can't win, So on one hand, Democrats and liberals will say, oh, you need a federal response. You need a federal testing program. You need a federal program to distribute ventilators. And, they were complaining. I heard this nonstop. And then when he does say he wants to do something, then they say, oh, he's wants to be a king and all this stuff. So, the guy just can't win with people that are going to hate him. And that's just the way it is. I mean, as you know, back when he put restrictions on traveling from China, they complained about him doing that and how terrible it was and how he hated Chinese people and all kinds of outrageous things. And now they're kind of quiet about that, aren't they? And so it's just some of these people including Nancy Pelosi, quite frankly, just really need to get back to helping American people. I mean, it's outrageous that this Paycheck Protection Loan Program that helps small businesses stay in business and pay their workers, that's been held up for a week now. I mean, in the Senate, the Democrats blocked that, and I don't understand. I don't understand what. I do not understand the Democrats sometimes. I just don't. I try to get along with them. I do get along with them, but sometimes I just do not understand them.
Well, one of the you mentioned the Paycheck Protection Program that finally was further funding was agreed to today, and that's going to be over in your chamber later this week. But one of the sticking points was, as you pointed out, the testing. The Democrats wanted the federal government to take ownership over the testing, where the Trump administration has been pushing this back, decentralizing it, which, quite frankly, is a idea of competition. It gives a lot of people an opportunity to try it, and the best rise to the top. Some of the best ideas have come forth through our system of federalism, where states can be innovative. And also, I think one of the reasons the Democrats don't like this is because when you push these issues back to the state level, it exposes poor leadership. And that's a big problem for them.
Well, yeah, and so the thing is that I think President Trump has, as you have said, has done a good job on a lot of deregulations, pushing different innovations in testing, vaccines, masks. There's a lot of innovations going on because the FDA is doing expedited approvals, opening up, some freedom and regulations, lots of private innovation. I can tell you that going on in my district and in my state. There's a lot of businesses that are like, hey, we're going to switch our model and try to fill a void that's needed, like
Right.
the PPEs, the masks, the gowns. They're coming up with innovative things, and why not? Why not do this? I talked to a medical researcher from California last week, had a new innovative idea for treatment. And, this is government does not do a good job at things. And that's what I've always misunderstood, or not understood, I should say, not understood about my Democratic colleagues, is they think government is the answer for everything. I haven't found one thing, except maybe law enforcement and the military, that government is better than the private sector. So I'm glad that President Trump and his administration are taking this tactic.
Yeah, it's refreshing. It's different. I mean, you have to go back quite some time to find this type of federalism response to a crisis. But this is opening the door, as you said, to innovation. I mean, even I'm familiar with even cases where hand sanitizer, there's shortages of that. So the FDA is removing some of the restrictions temporarily to allow others to make it according to their, guidelines. But it's opening the door to meet the pressing needs of this hour. And I can tell you, even in previous Republican administrations where they've not done that, they've had a heavy one-size-fits-all approach to it, and it has not been that efficient. The other good thing about this, Debbie, is that, as I see it, the way this is being pushed back to the states, and even though we've had this huge, historic amount of new funding, it's not creating new entities that will require funding in the future. So when this crisis passes, there's a good chance that the spending does as well, which is unique.
Yeah, no, those are all very positive things. And so, I'm looking forward to some of these states that can reopening up. A few states are doing that. I'm hoping that Arizona, right now, we have a stay-at-home order till the end of April. So we'll see if Governor Ducey, who is a Republican governor, if he's going to open back up on May 1st or not. I mean, it's so hard. This thing is so hard because those models that everybody's been using about, when is the peak going to hit, they've been just so off. And so everybody is worried that if they open up too soon, they might have a reoccurrence or a peak of cases. And so you don't want that on your hands. You don't want people to die because of what you decided. But then again, in Arizona, as well as across the nation, people want to go back to work. Some of these freedoms that are being taken away, like, for goodness sakes, telling a church that has a drive-through service that they can't even have drive-through services and giving people fines. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
overreach.
overreach.
So I applaud the administration. You're right.
Debbie, very quickly on the way out, any word when the House might vote on the additional money?
Yeah, I'm on Rose Committee. I'm meeting Wednesday, tomorrow afternoon, and then Thursday we should be voting.
All right.
I hope.
All right, Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, folks, find out more, go to the website, tonyperkins.com.